everyone, welcome back to my shop. Well, today I've got a little bit of a different project. I'm going to be fixing this cabinet door. Well, I've kind of fixed the door already. What happened was the door had cracked right along the hinge side, as you can see by the crack right here. So I've already glued it together, clamped it, and then set it aside for a couple of days. I was going to give it back to the person who gave it to me, then I thought, well, you know what, it's really not that much of a glue joint along there. And being on the hinge side, what happens if you open and close this door, it's under stress, it might break again. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to cut a couple of splines along here, and set like a, almost like a butterfly in there to reinforce it. And I'm going to do that on my CNC. So stick around and I'll show you how I'm going to do it. But first, before we do that, in response to my sticker wall, I got another sticker from Mike Waldt, all the way from the UK. So thank you, Mike. I'm going to put this on the wall, and I'm also going to post your YouTube channel down below. So go and check him out. It's a really good wood turner. Also, if you want to send me a sticker, just send me an email, either in digital format, or send me an email asking how you can send one to me by a real sticker like Mike did. Just send me a private message. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button for when I do a new video. You'll be notified right away. Also, follow me on all the social media. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. I always post things on there for other projects that are coming up and things that I'm doing from day to day. So, let's get on with this. I set a piece of walnut on a sacrificial block on the X-Carve that measures 2 by 6 by 0.38 inches. So now I'm logged into easel, and this is what I'm going to use to cut out the splines or the inserts on the door. I start off with a square, then I set the dimension to 1/2 inch wide by 2 inches in height. Then I click on the outline button and set the cut to the outside. Then back in the shape tab, I set the corner radius to 0.125 of an inch, which is 1/8 of an inch, same as the bit size that I'm using. And then I rotate it 90 degrees. I then selected that piece and did a copy and paste to make a second piece. And then I left click and hold and drag the arrow over the two pieces to highlight them, and then click on the horizontal centering button. Then I just move the pieces closer together and then drop them down so it'll fit the block of wood. I select the first piece, then select the cut tab, set the depth of the cut all the way through, and then I use two tabs. I move the tabs over so it will be easier for them to be cut off later. I then selected the second piece, and then I set the depth of cut and the tabs the same as I did on the first one. And at this point, it's a good idea to double check your settings before pressing the carve button. I put the door on the X-Carve table and lined up the edges with the 0 point of the X and Y axis. I put a couple of clamps on them and adjusted the door into place on the lines so I can get an accurate measurement. I then put on a few more clamps and made sure the door was secured to the table. I then mark the point where the center of the insert will be cut in. Then I measure the center point of the line where it meets the crack in the wood. Then I did the same on the other side. I also had to make sure I measured this one from the 0 point to the mark to properly set that measurement in easel. Now in easel, I set the size of the door and the material dimensions. The door was 17 3/4 inches by 13 inches by 3/4 of an inch. Then I selected the first piece, and in the Shape tab, I selected the center point. This is where the measurements I took off the door will fall into place. Then in the size of the pieces, I changed the width and the height by making it 0.001 of an inch bigger. Then I set the rotation back to 0, so it was turned counterclockwise 90 degrees. Then in the Cut tab, I selected Fill, and in the depth, I set it to 0.385 inches. Then back to the Shape tab, I set the X and Y position according to the measurements I took. On the second piece, I put in the same settings and set the cut position to the measurement I took earlier. And again, it's a good idea to check the settings before starting the cut. I had to sand off what was left of the tab so it would fit in the hole before gluing. I applied a fair amount of glue to both the door and the inserts. I pressed them in and then wiped off any excess glue before clamping. After I removed the clamps, I sanded off any remaining glue with 220 and 320 grit sandpaper. I mixed up some sawdust and glue to fill in the crack in the door. I just pressed it in and scraped off the excess until it was flush. I used the card scraper to take off the excess dried glue on the joint, then used 320 grit sandpaper. And then for the final finish, I sprayed a few coats of a low gloss lacquer. So this is it completely finished. So I'm really hoping these splines will help prevent the door from ever breaking again. A couple of critical things that I wanted to mention was when you're laying this out on the CNC, you have to make sure the measurements are exact, because especially on this side here, I had a couple of pin nails that I wanted to avoid. Like within a millimeter or something like that, I was okay with that on here. So other than that, it turned out really good. Setting the holes just a little bit bigger and a little bit deeper worked really well, because when I put the glue on it, they set in there just perfectly, and perfectly flush. All I have to do is give it a little sanding, clean up the glue, and then a couple of shots of some lacquer, and it looks pretty good. So quite simple project really on the CNC. You could have done this with a router, either hand routing it or using a template and the collars on the router, and then you'd also have to chisel out the corners so that everything fits perfectly. You could have done a bow tie or something like that. I didn't do a bow tie on the CNC because I would have to chisel out the corners, and I didn't want to do that, so didn't want to spend all that time on it. Routing on the inside will leave a round corner, and routing on the outside on the bow tie would have left a sharp corner, so that's where I would have had to have chiseled in to get it set right. So, but you know, like if you're doing that on a table, you might want to do that, but I didn't want to do that on here. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, give me a thumbs up. Also, if you have any comments or questions or suggestions, let me know. I'm always glad to hear from you. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and a notification button, because when I do a new video, you'll be notified right away. Also, you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm always posting things on there for future projects. So thanks for watching and take care.